Welcome to Transmission Podcast. I'm your host, Cecilia Lynn Jacobs. For the next little while, we invite you to speculate on the possibility of life on Proxima b, the closest known planet outside of our solar system that has the potential to support life. In each episode, we question what would happen if we suddenly knew we were no longer alone in the universe, and what that would mean for humanity to become an interstellar civilization. Please, stay close.
We can be ready to transmit starting tomorrow. We think that's what would happen if we realized, if your scenario played out, we realized there is intelligent life at Proxima b. Anyone and everyone would be transmitting. There would be this cacophony from Earth. My name is Doug Vakoch. I'm president of METI International, and we are an organization dedicated to messaging extraterrestrial intelligence.
On March 22, 2017, Transmission Podcast was invited to attend a day-long conference at le Muséum National D'Histoire Naturelle in Paris about the question, What is Life?, hosted by METI International. The organization focuses on research and discussion related to possible extraterrestrial life. METI also considers what we would say to aliens and why we'd say it. Beyond constructing a unified message, METI trustees and advisory council members dive into the philosophical questions that arise when considering what it means to be part of a shared universe, questions about the very nature of existence. Our conversations were so engaging that we split them into 2 full episodes. Stay with us as we return to our conversation with Doug Vakoch, president of METI International.
For over 50 years, astronomers have been involved in the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. So using radio telescopes to look for weak signals from other civilizations. Our organization is actually flipping the process, and instead of simply listening for signals, we're getting ready to send intentional, strong signals to let any aliens who might be listening to us know that we want to make contact, we want to get a reply. We are listening for signals from extraterrestrials with radio telescopes. So we're looking for signals that stand out from the cosmic static. So stars and galaxies give off radio signals. But when they give off radio signals, it's kind of like if you're tuning on a radio dial, those stars and galaxies are smeared out over a range of frequencies. When we do SETI, we're looking for something that appears at just one spot on the radio dial. And if we detect it, we will know that we have found something, either some radically new physical phenomenon that we've never detected before, or we've actually found ET. So that's what we do. Starting in 1960, astronomers used radio telescopes to search for signals from aliens. And then about 15 years ago, we started using regular light telescopes to look for optical signals. And here the strategy is you don't look for a continuous signal, because at light frequencies, that would take a tremendous amount of energy. Instead, we look for pulses that are a billionth of a second long. So you can put a lot of power into a really brief signal. But then what we're ultimately hoping for is something like an interstellar Morse code, that they start sending us some really rich information about their math, their science, and if we're lucky, their culture. There's who decides who goes and what goes, because your theatrical production is focused on a space crew, a group of astronauts who's going to be going. But even before they get to Proxima b, there's going to be a lot of messages from Earth, so they don't even get to make first contact for humankind, because there have been a lot of radio signals going ahead of time. But, when you ask who decides who, I think there's the formal protocols, and then there's reality. And the protocols say, if any of our groups doing SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, get a signal from Proxima B, then first of all, we've got to make sure this is really a legit signal. And if it is, if other astronomers can pick it up too, we know it's not a glitch or a hoax that some smart students from the University of Toronto have perpetuated on us, but it's a real signal, then we should have a public announcement. Everyone knows about it. But then there should be a broad international discussion before there is a reply. So that's what the protocol says. The reality is there's no way to control that reply. So anyone with anything from a ham radio to a commercial broadcasting facility could be replying on behalf of humankind. So that's what the initial response is going to be. But, you're actually going to need international cooperation to mount a human mission to Proxima B. So you're gonna, you'd want an international collaboration, and economically it's going to require it anyway. Well, we would want a team that covers the range of specialties needed. You need a navigator and a captain and an MD. You'd need a biologist. You'd need a physicist. But the thing is, you're probably going to be limited in how many people you can have. So if you're limited to half a dozen people, everyone's going to have to fill 2 or 3 roles. What happens if the doctor dies? Well, maybe it turns out the navigator is their backup physician, or someone's going to also have to be the veterinarian. So you're going to have to be a lot more flexible than the very narrow occupational roles we have here on Earth. So you're going to need some polymaths. You're going to need some Renaissance men and women who are willing to play a number of different roles on another world. I think the international collaboration would look a lot like the international collaboration we have with the International Space Station. So this is the way that we have maintained some human presence in space. So we have some countries that put more resources, they send more astronauts. The Americans and the Russians have a long history, but we're also seeing a very strong presence by the Chinese, the Indian Space Research Organization. So I would expect we will have some countries contributing more, and they're probably going to say, if we're contributing 25% of the cost of this, we sure get one of the astronauts. And then it's going to be a bit of a lottery to decide who else gets to be involved. But I think when we want to send a delegation to another world, the reality is they're not coming back. So this is a one-way trip. So the better we can capture some of the diversity of humankind, the better of a representation that crew is for Earth. One of the big challenges that we face in METI is there's so many parts of what we do that are misunderstood. The cosmologist Stephen Hawking has said, if we get a signal from extraterrestrials, the last thing we want to do is yell yoo-hoo, because it might turn out very badly. And so I think there are a lot of misconceptions about the dangers of contact, the ease of interstellar travel. And so actually being able to engage the public and talk about which parts of this are realistic right now, what would it take to do something much more ambitious in the future, that's important for us to engage the public. But ultimately, the project we're involved in could take hundreds or thousands of years to succeed to get a reply back. So we got to start thinking about how to engage the next generation right now. One of the challenges that we always face in science is making sure that it is a really international endeavor. So being able to have a meeting here in Paris with primarily scholars, scientists from France, but also from North America, from Canada, I think is really the step in the direction that we need to go to have a more international scientific collaboration. And I just am appreciative of the transmission project because it's a way to imagine the future, to open ourselves up to possibilities, to realize that there are some really significant constraints to get humans to another world or to make contact with alien life. But unless we imagine those possibilities and then look at the distance between the reality and what we need to make that happen, we're never going to achieve it. So, I think projects like transmission are great, both for engaging the broader public and also for the scientists and other specialists who try to make it all happen.
When we return, we speak with METI International trustee Florence Raulin Cerceau. Please stay close.
And now a word about our sponsor, Porter Airlines. The transmission team recently got everyone together in Toronto for recording. With multiple flights every day to and from Ottawa, Montreal, New York, Boston, and others, plus the convenience of coming into Toronto's Billy Bishop Island Airport, Porter was our first choice to get everyone to town. And the cookies in the lounge were delicious. I'm here with composer and sound designer Miles, who had his first flight on Porter for this trip. How was your flight?
We got to the airport early, and Porter put us on an earlier flight. Absolutely free, no questions asked.
If you're heading to Toronto, or any of Porter's 23 destinations in the Northeast, and many more partner locations in the U.S. and beyond, make sure you check out Porter Airlines and experience their refined service on every flight. While on board, enjoy complimentary snacks and beverages and spacious legroom. It might not get you to Proxima B, but it certainly makes terrestrial travel that much more pleasant.
It's different now, of course, because we are aware of many dangers, many things, many problems with supposed civilizations. But at the end of the 19th century, there were only few pioneers who wanted to contact other civilizations, not exactly civilizations. It was the Moon first, and after it was Mars and Venus, which were supposed to be inhabited by people like us. Well, humans, why not? So it was easy to suppose that we can have contact with them. So I think at the end of the 19th century, it was easier to think. We have to discuss with the inhabitant of the Moon or Mars. It was easy in the mind, not in practice, of course. And now it's a little bit it's different, of course, because we know that, of course, all the planets are not inhabited. We know that Moon is not had no inhabitants. No, Mars and Venus. We are looking for microfossils on Mars, but we know that there is nobody on Mars. When I say nobody, there is no green man, no humans like us. Things of course have changed between the end of the 19th century and nowadays.
Welcome back to Transmission Podcast. With all of this speculation about the future, it's easy to forget that humans have a long history of looking to the heavens.
I'm Florence Raulin Cerceau. I'm working at the National Muséum of Natural History of Paris, and my research are focused on the history of the pioneers of interplanetary communication and the history of SETI. At the end of the 19th century, it was possible to imagine everything, because in fact we knew nothing. We knew nothing about what was on the surface of Mars, for instance. And we know also that there are a lot of exoplanets in the universe. So in one century, I think mentality has really changed, because so many things in science, in astronomy, with this new field of astrobiology. Astrobiology is a new science which has begun just 50 years ago. So many things have changed in few decades.
How did astrobiology begin? Can you give us just a quick background on that?
We can say that astrobiology has begun about 1916. It's recent. It's recent. This science